Hello everyone, this is Brian from Brian Tech. In this video, you learn about what Docker is and how to get started with it, even if you previously know nothing about it. Assumption here is that you have not learned about Docker in the past or got exposed to it, but still did not make much sense. This video will simplify to a degree that even your grandpa or 5-year-old can understand it. Okay, maybe not, but it will still be super easy for sure. First, let's start with learning what Docker is. So here, we'll start with the scenario, then follow up with history lesson. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, and let's get started. Chapter 1. Imagine a world where, let's imagine a scenario where you want to build next Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, or whatever. Since you want to build an application, that's maybe going to be a web application or maybe a mobile Android or Apple iOS application. Or it can be a desktop application, a video or a PC game, or embedded application. Whichever it is, you still need to build it somewhere and deploy somewhere. Typically, if you just think about video game, a desktop, or a mobile application, you might think, oh, everything runs within this device. Okay, that can be true if you want to design a game of tic-tac-toe or Flappy Bird, which is very simple, but many complicated applications need to talk to other services. For example, this application can be database to store user data, REST API service to return various types of game data. Whatever it is, this type of service is almost always there for any type of complicated applications. Now, these services are often hosted on the network as some sort of cloud application services or server application services. After many corporations moved to some platform called the cloud like Amazon Web Service, Microsoft Azure, or Google Cloud Platform, they provide hundreds of services, but the core functionality of that these cloud providers give is something called virtual machine or VM for short. What is cloud? I may be able to cover that in other video next time, but you can think virtual machine as some machine with an operating system that can continuously run, though it can be stopped, to host your applications and thus to provide application services. At this point in time, you may wonder, I came here to learn about Docker and why you're talking about all of this. Alright, I explained earlier that I created this video as you are an audience who may know nothing about Docker yet. Let me explain where Docker comes in. Docker is a company or an application technology that made container technology popular that gives an alternative solution to run services inside virtual machine. With Docker or a container, you don't have to bring an entire operating system like Windows, Linux, or Mac when you want to just deploy a simple, say, Node.js application. With that, let's move on to explain what Docker is. Chapter 2. What is Docker? History of Docker. In previous chapter, I explained that Docker is a company or an application that made a container popular. This thing called container existed in Linux or Unix system for quite some time. Basically, there are services like LXC, namespace, group that helps to isolate physical resources like CPU, memory, and network in virtualized ways. When a virtual machine, think like AWS EC2 get created, it brings entire operating system like Windows or Ubuntu Linux and use an operating system level technology called hypervisor to spin out a virtual machine. The container, on the other hand, does not require an operating system that's easily gigabyte in size to run a simple application that is maybe just a few megabytes in size. In a sense, it's much more efficient and lightweight. I'm not saying virtual machine does not have its usage, as many container applications are usually hosted on top of virtual machine, and there are some use cases where virtual machines shine, such as heavy GPU processing machine learning applications and web pages that require persistent connections. But containers are a more efficient way to handle many application deployment. Now, Docker is a company that made this container technology popular. It has this cute whale mascot as its brand. Although Docker is a company that made the container technology popular, it struggled a little bit in the past years due to giveaway for Google's Kubernetes to orchestrate container technologies and to monetize. On November 13, 2019, a company named Mirantis acquired Docker, and Docker is actively looking to monetize its technology. Docker still offers an easy way to get started with container technology, and it is still in its edge. So that's why you're seeing this video. Since we know the history of Docker and what it is, let's move on to set up Docker and to try it out. Chapter 3. Let's install Docker. To get started with Docker, you need 3 things. First, you need to install Docker. Duh. Second, you need a computer with a nice stable internet connection and with a terminal like a Mac OS terminal. You can use the PowerShell for Windows too. Lastly, you need a text editor like Microsoft Visual Studio Code, and you know how to write some code. To install Docker, you can go to this homepage, www.docker.com/products/docker-desktop and go and download it. You may need to restart your computer to run it. Once you're ready, let's move on to learn about some Docker terminologies. Chapter 4. Docker terminologies you have to know. There are many Docker terms you may come across, but these 4 should give you a really good idea that help to get started. First, there is a Docker command line interface, or Docker CLI for short. Once you download it and install Docker Desktop, your terminal should recognize Docker commands. You can use this to build, to run, and to manage Docker within your local computer. Second, there is Docker Hub. Docker Hub is where Docker provides base container images to start with. In the next section, we'll create a Dockerfile. By default, unless you make a point to other image registries besides Docker Hub, it will try to search from images within Docker Hub. There are many other places where you can host container images, such as GitHub packages, Red Hat Quay, and many other cloud image registries. Third, there is the Docker images. Docker images can be thought of as a blueprint where once it's built, you can use it to spin out a container process to run it, or use a base image to build yet another container image. For example, you can create a Docker file that uses base Node.js image in Docker Hub, but install custom npm libraries, store it in your local computer, and make it available in places like GitHub packages. Then other developers can use that image to create a yet another image with the Dockerfile or spin out to run as an application. Last thing is Docker process. This is where you can run the images as a process like a service. Okay, we learned about 4 essential terms that can help you get started with Docker. Next, let's move on to actually build a Docker container with the Dockerfile. Chapter 5, writing your first Dockerfile. Let's open a text editor like Microsoft Visual Studio Code to write your first Dockerfile. It is a good idea to create a dedicated folder to store your Dockerfile, so it is easy to locate it. I've seen a lot of people wrote it somewhere random location, so they could not remember where they put the file. You can think Dockerfile as a way to write your container blueprint. One thing to note is that although it is called Dockerfile, on output it is a container that can be used anywhere, not just Docker. And there's one very important thing to emphasize because I've seen a lot of people makes this obvious mistake. Name matters a lot. You need to capitalize first D. The Docker files is not plural, it is singular. It's exactly Docker file. Let me go ahead and create one. Make sure to remember the name. I can create a container image for anything, but I'm going to create one that helps to start Node.js. You can technically grab Node.js project and place them here. Here are my files. Alright, so here's my empty Docker file. There are different Docker keywords, but very first keyword is always from. This keyword from specifies where your base image is located at. Again, this can be in GitHub packages, Red Hat Quay, your local images, or other image history, which probably require credential if you do so, but we just find an image in Docker Hub. We'll pick one called Node.js. So there is one question that I heard quite a lot from other students whom I taught before. That is, they saw a lot of cases where companies use Ubuntu or other Windows operating system as base images. If that is so, wouldn't that throw away the benefit of a container images being lightweight without operating system? And my answer is yes, that is exactly correct. I've seen a lot of cases where container-based images end up being 5 to 10 gigabyte in size. But the reason why many companies doing that is quite complicated. You can start with the very lightweight distro images and install a lot of tools. But many teams don't want to go through the hassle of doing that. So they just choose the base images that look like having all the tools they need already. Which I could think is a bad practice, but it is what it is. Next, we'll define workdir. WORKDIR. This specifies which folder in a container that will have files can be found and created. I will specify as /app. Next, I will copy some files with the copy command. I can just copy the entire thing with my local folder from my local folder, but I'm just copying packages.json and package-lock.json. Syntax-wise, whatever comes at the end is a destination, which is a container. Whatever comes before are source, which are my local files. Next, I'm going to use learn keyword to install npm. That is npm install. Then I will copy the rest of the file from my local to container. We could technically skip earlier step and do this instead, but this helps to prevent unnecessary files like node underscore modules to get copied to containers. Lastly, I'm going to use cmd command to run container with npm start. There is another command called entry point, which pretty much does the same thing. Alright, we are ready with our Dockerfile. Let's move on to build and to run it. Building and running your Dockerfile. Open your terminal. For Mac OS, it's called a terminal, and in Windows, it's going to be PowerShell. You can also use Visual Studio Code's terminal. Anyway, type this command. Docker build -t awesome -app colon 1.0 space and dot. In here, -t indicate the tag name for your container image. At the end, dot at the end specifies the current directory. Once the build is successful, type Docker images to verify that your image got created. Then type the following command to run as a container with the base image. Docker run -p 3000 colon 3000 hyphen detach -rm -name awesome -app space awesome -app colon 1.0. In this command, number after -p specifies port per container and local port. For example, in my Node.js, I'm opening a port 3000 to run my application. So I'm forwarding to 3000 on my container port so it can listen to that port. Port number before colon is my container port, and one after the colon is my local port. -detach specifies that to run as a separate service. If I don't provide the option, it will print out in my terminal unless I hit Ctrl Z or Ctrl C option. -rm specifies to run, delete it from container process if I stop it. You can use docker ps command to verify it. -name defines what you want to call your Docker process's name to be. Again, you can type docker ps to verify it. Last, awesome app column add colon 1.0 is the image name you want to use. Okay, if that's successful, let's open a browser and visit localhost colon 3000. Ta-da! There you go. It is successful. You can navigate to see. Once you're done, to stop the process, you can type docker ps first to see the image. Then grab the process and type docker stop and then your process ID. Since we provided -rm option, it should remove once it's stopped. Docker ps command to verify it. Let's try to remove the image next. Docker images to see the image. Grab the image and type the following command. Docker RMI, that's for removing image, and your image name or image ID. You may need to provide -f option to forcefully removing it if it has a dependency. Congratulations, you just built your Docker container image. Your next question is maybe going to be what you can do about it. Well, this application can be moved to other cloud services and to run as a separate web application. Or it can be moved into image registry like data packages so others can consume it. Either way, the journey to learn container is not a short path, but you should know enough to just start with it. That's it. I hope you like watching this video and be sure to like it.